Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Crypto Crossroads. Today, we're going to talk about four different projects that are connected to the Australian digital economy. And these projects are Hedera Hashgraph, LightLink Network, XDC Network, and the RedBelly Network. So, before we get started, do me a quick favor, hit the like and subscribe button, and we can get the show started. So, essentially, these four projects are connected to either the Australian government, the Australian digital dollar stablecoin project, and or the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is essentially a central bank, right? So what we'll do is we'll first talk about the Australian digital dollar project and the projects connected to it. Then we'll talk about the Reserve Bank of Australia and we'll take a look at the tokenomics for these projects. All right, so let's get started. And first, I want to show you guys the Twitter account for the Australian digital dollar. And as you guys can see, the ticker is AUDD. It is actually a company that is not owned by the Australian government, but it is approved by the Australian government, to my knowledge, right? And the fintech companies that actually own this Australian digital dollar are AUDC and Novatti Payments, right? And let me give them a follow real quick. So essentially, there's several blockchain networks that are actually facilitating this AUDD stablecoin. So I'll go ahead and scroll down and show you guys that Hedera Hashgraph is one of these networks. And as you guys can see here, posted on June 18, 2025, this post lets us know that the Australian digital dollar is now live on Hedera, right? For real-time AUD transfers with very cheap fees that are also carbon negative. So that's the Hedera Hashgraph. Now let's go ahead and look at the next post where we can see that this Australian digital dollar coin is also launching on the XDC network. As you guys can see, the main emphasis is that this partnership was made on February 6, 2025, and there will be real-time, low-cost atomic settlements for trade, tokenization, and payments on fast, secure, EVM-compatible rails, thanks to the help of XDC, right? So now, let's go ahead and show you guys something on the AUDD website. So we can see that there are actually more projects powering this stablecoin. So here we are, we're looking at the networks that actually power this stablecoin. And of course, right, we see Stellar. We also see the XRP ledger. We see Solana, which to some may be a surprise because some people are skeptic of this project. I no longer am. I actually like Solana, but that's a whole different topic. And of course, we see Hedera. But I did mention earlier that XTC is actually powering AUDD, but we just don't see it here as a logo, right? But if you follow my mouse, my cursor, you'll see that the base network along with XDC are highlighted to be next, right? So my understanding is this website hasn't been updated because, of course, the AUDD stablecoin is already on XDC, right? And we also see that Ethereum is a network for this stablecoin, right? And in my opinion, LightLink is actually going to power the Ethereum network AUDD stablecoin, right? And you guys may wonder why I say that. So let me go ahead and show you guys some proof, right? So let's go ahead and share this tab. And we have a post here on the LinkedIn of a gentleman called Troy Tuhi, who is actually a trade manager at the technology of Global Victoria, which is actually an Australian government department, right? And this post was actually posted 2 months ago. And is pretty much highlighting an event that happened in Australia, hosted by Australia. To be exact, the two departments that hosted this event is the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and also the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, right? So these are the departments that put this event together, and it was called the Indonesian FinTech and Digital Entrepreneur Delegation that took place in Melbourne, Australia. And as you guys can see, there's several companies that were actually invited to this Victorian event, and some of these companies are, that are related to this topic is, of course, the Australian digital dollar, which the ticker is AUDD. And then we also have a company called Peller Technology, right? And you guys might be asking yourselves, well, you haven't mentioned this company. So what exactly does Peller Technology do? Right. So that's when I go ahead and I pull up this little handy infographic that I made. Let me see if I could find it. It should be here. All right, so I pulled it up. And again, we see Peller Technology right here. And we could see that it actually created LightLink in 2022. And if we scroll to the top middle section of this graphic, we see CP Group, a huge investment bank in Asia. I like to call it the BlackRock of Asia. And you guys can see that I highlighted its partly acquisition of Peller Technology in 2022. And of course, I know you guys see Velo right here. Both Velo and LightLink are under the same family tree umbrella, which is CP Group, right? So let's go back to the article where it tells us that in this Australian government event, the Australian digital dollar and the Peller Technology company were present, right? So Peller Technology created LightLink. So why is this important? Well, I also have another video that I have to share with you guys to show you guys that LightLink is actually connected to the Australian digital dollar. But before I do, let me show you guys this post where LightLink posted about his co-founder Roy Hui, who was actually invited by the Victorian government to speak live at a government event, right? So that's just to show you guys that LightLink and his co-founder are really connected to the Australian government, right? So now let's go ahead and make our way to the video where the LightLink co-founder Roy Hui talks about its connections to the Australian dollar, digital dollar, and he actually calls them friends. And that's something to keep in mind because he actually, every time he talks about his partners, he calls them friends. And I'm not sure if that's an Australian habit or just him really calling his partners friends. So let's take a look at this video. Let's get started.
What are your thoughts on what's coming next for the next, let's say, 2 years?
From a stablecoin perspective, in a couple of years, friends of ours are working on the digital Australian dollar project. They are hoping to replace existing financial rails as an ultimate outcome. Because when you look at the current banking infrastructure, a lot of that capability was built on architecture that's done in the 1950s, 1970s, right? And we now have technology that's substantially more secure and a lot more reliable than what we had previously. So if we fast forward 2 years, thinking about this particular project, hoping we can tap into the retail level. When you do a payment in a supermarket, and those are the conversations that we're having now, you can not only conduct that payment using crypto rails, but also earning points, looking at real-time term deposit type of yields, small, single-digit percentage, but it's incremental.
All right, guys. So that was Roy Hui, co-founder of LightLink, and it's obvious that there's some type of connection between LightLink and the Australian digital dollar. Because when he was talking about their goal, the stablecoin's goal, he didn't say they, he said we. So my understanding is that both LightLink and the Australian digital dollar are looking to collaborate in some type of way where they could incorporate loyalty points and also yields for people that hold and use this Australian digital dollar, right? So that's just something I wanted to share about LightLink. I know I spent some time covering this project, but of course, it's a project that not many people know about it. So I just wanted to give it a little bit more background information. Plus, I wanted to prove to you guys that this project LightLink is connected to the stablecoin, because it wasn't listed on the official website. But we know that these two projects tend to be around the same events and connected to the Australian government, right? So now let's go ahead. Now that we talked about these projects connected to this digital stablecoin, let's go ahead and talk about Australia's central bank, right? And its connections to HBAR and also RedBelly Network, another project that's actually connected to Australia, just like Peller Technology and LightLink are, right? And actually, Peller Technology and the RedBelly Network were both highlighted in the Australia's national blockchain roadmap back in 2020, and they were highlighted as case studies that are pretty much highlighted as promising technologies, right? Peller Technology, which is the founder of LightLink, was highlighted for working on supply chains and the blockchain, fintech, with fintech companies all over South Korea, Malaysia, and other Asian countries. And they also highlighted that Peller Technology created the Honda Thailand's blockchain solution to record car manufacturer information, supply chain, and service and ownership information, right? So that's a whole different topic. We'll cover that again, which I actually already have in the past somewhere on my LightLink playlist. But now what I want to do is talk about the Reserve Bank and HBAR and the RedBelly connection. So let's go ahead and go down to that tab. And here we are. So, of course, the Reserve Bank of Australia is part of the Australian government, as you guys can see. And together, these companies and organizations and the government came together to create a project called the Project Acacia, right? Which is has chosen industry participants, with regulatory relief for the asset tokenization project. So basically, what I suggest for you guys is to find this article for yourselves and just dive deep into it. I'm just gonna give you guys a highlighted summary. But this article was actually posted on July 10, 2025. And we scroll down here, we see that there are actually 24 innovative use cases with diverse range of organizations ranging from local fintechs to major banks, right? And that's pretty bullish because I mean banks are involved, the Reserve Bank of Australia, which is a central bank. So we know that big money is, is facilitating this project, this pilot project. And of course, they involve Hedera Hashgraph, RedBelly Network, R3 Corda. I know you guys are familiar with that, especially if you hold utility coins. We have Cavis Connect and other EVM compatible networks are, participating in this pretty much like a CBD pilot, but also we have the tokenization of assets. So let's continue to break down this article. And right here, we see that there are, out of the 24 use cases for this project, we're going to have 19 pilot use cases which actually involve real money and real asset transactions. And the remaining 5 use cases are actually proof of concept use cases that involve simulated transactions. So, of course, pretty much we're going to have real transactions and also sandbox transactions in this project. So that's something for you guys to keep an eye on. And of course, what I want to do next is kind of talk about the prices of these projects and their tokenomics. And what we'll do is talk about these projects starting with the smallest market cap, right? And then we'll work our way up to the biggest market caps. So here we have LightLink. Right now, it's sitting at a penny and a half, almost a little bit above a $4 million market cap, a max supply of 1 billion coins. And 30% of those coins are actually already in circulation. So that's not bad. I mean, if we look at the all-time chart, we can see that right now we're at the lowest prices that we've seen, right? So that's LightLink. That's a project I recommend you guys check out. I made a playlist with like at least 16, 17 videos. Real quick, this project is connected to MIT. Yup. the same institution that Gary Gensler was a part of at one point. They're actually connected to CP Group, which is the investment bank that's backing Velo. And I mean, they're connected to so many things, from governments to banks, tokenizing government bonds. But that's just a quick, like a little, a quick summary. Now let's go ahead and make our way down to the next project that we cover, and that is the RedBelly Network. This project is, highly connected to the Australian bank, and they tokenize assets, right? And they have some of the biggest assets under their portfolio. So that's something to keep an eye on. This project, this coin launched not so long ago, 2024. December 2024, but the company itself actually launched in 2018, right? So the company's been around for a couple of years, and so has LightLink's mother company, right? But the projects were recently launched. And then the market cap is $26 million. We have a max supply of 10 billion coins. And of course, let's move on to the next utility coin, which is XDC. Extremely bullish on this project. There's a market cap of a little bit over $1.3 million, total supply of 38 billion coins. And let's move on to Hedera, right? And this project itself is just amazing. They have a governing council that involves institutions, banks, and I mean, that's just bullish. It lets you know that multiple companies are interested in using the Hedera Hashgraph network because of its carbon neutral technology and also fast and cheap transactions, right? And its market cap is sitting around $10 billion. Max supply is 50 billion coins, and almost all of this supply is in circulation, right? Almost all of it. So that's about it for today, guys. Just to give you guys a quick recap, I'm going to cover this real quick. But before I do me a quick favor, hit the like and subscribe button. Now let's talk about the recap. So essentially here on the screen, I have 4 different projects. We had HBAR, LightLink, XDC, and the RedBelly Network. And these projects are connected to the Australian government, the stablecoin for Australia digital dollar project, and also CBDCs, right? And they're not all connected to these things. Some of these are connected to just one of these bodies of organizations. But I mean, to me, it seems like Australia is becoming a hotspot for technology and blockchain innovation. And I'm starting to see more projects, make connections with Australian blockchain projects and even traditional companies. So that's something to keep an eye on. And also just be aware that Australia is trying to fortify its connections to Thailand, right? And that's the reason why LightLink was created. The governments wanted to create a stronger bond between the countries, and CP Group decided to create a metaverse with the help of Pella Technology and LightLink. So yeah, that's something that you guys should be aware of. Of course, Velo is connected to this investment bank. But hey, guys, that's it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember that God is good, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.